And I will go ahead and call the meeting to order, since this is our first meeting of the year. I want to welcome you all to the first meeting of 2025. Getting used to saying that already. And congratulate our new board members of those who were recently appointed. We do have one brand new board member now, and Scott Ward, who just retired from Alamance County IT after 27 years of service. Do I have that correct?
You do.
Scott, do you want to introduce yourself to
Sure.
the rest of the board?
My name is Dr. Scott Ward. I retired from the county after 27 years. I worked in the IT department, as he said, but as part of that, I worked on some of the history, more historic projects around the courthouse. Did some digging up history on the monument, that kind of thing, on the just general historic knowledge. And I wanted to continue serving the larger community. I saw that there was an opening on this board, and I said that's what I'd like to do. So I'm excited to be a part of this.
Welcome.
We are excited to have you, if for no other reason, whenever we have trouble with the computer.
That's right.
You know,
I'll refer you to IT. I don't work here.
we could have used an IT expert at the last planning board meeting, right?
Sounds like you need to put in a help desk call.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. All right, item 2 on the agenda is oaths of office. North Carolina General Statute 160B-309 requires that all HPC members qualify by taking an oath of office before entering into your official duties. Tonight, we have 4 members beginning new terms. Those members are Scott Ward, Emily White, Gail Pettiford, and John Greason, if I have that correct. As a notary public, our Assistant County Attorney, Michelle Horn, is here and legally qualified to administer oaths, and I will now turn the meeting over to her.
Her oath written out somewhere that I can read off.
I do.
But I do not have that memorized.
I didn't think of it, but it happened by accident, so just don't write the name on there and you'll be
I
fine.
wanna, okay, we can do it all together at the same time. That might be a little more efficient. Does anyone need a Bible or are you just going to a phone?
Bible here, or you can.
I can got my Bible on my phone. So
Okay.
I could use one.
I'm such a nerd.
Where I usually
Maybe we use the same one.
It's
accept that.
it's an ESV.
One part.
You and him.
Oh. Hmm?
You and him.
Oh,
Oh, I've got, you
Oh, you got it right there.
there you go.
Okay.
there you go. You got the ESV.
Start over here or-
Go ahead.
You don't have to, you can simply raise your hand.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Okay. Guys ready? I state your name,
I,
Brian
John
Scott
Greason,
Ward,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear
that I will support and maintain the Constitution
that I will support and maintain the Constitution
and laws of the United States
and
laws of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of North Carolina,
and the Constitution and laws of North Carolina,
not inconsistent therewith,
not inconsistent therewith,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of my office
that I will faithfully discharge the duties of my office
as a planning board member.
as a plan.
I'm sorry, as an HPC member.
as
an HPC member.
Historic Properties Committee or
Commission.
Commission, okay. Sorry, I messed that up. So help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you.
Mine's a planning board.
Does it say planning board?
Mine does too.
Okay.
Oh.
All right, we'll have to get that fixed.
Do you wanna, send me an email? I can do them and print them off and bring it back.
Yeah,
And that way you can give me one, we'll just have everyone sign your individual one.
I'll do that. All right, next item on the agenda is the election of officers. Your bylaws require that you elect a chair and a vice chair each year. As planning director, I will oversee the election of chair, or however it goes, and once a chair is elected, I'll then turn the meeting over to them for the election of vice chair and the remainder of the agenda. So we've got a little bit of a situation on our hands. I think at the tail end of last year in the lead up to the holidays, I think I failed to adequately remind Rodney that his term was expiring. So his application actually came in after the deadline, but he's on the agenda for the commissioners to be reappointed next Tuesday, the 21st. So technically, right now, as we sit here tonight, Rodney is not a board member. But Rodney has been chair for how many years?
At least one.
Okay. So I say all that to say, if there's an interest in keeping Rodney on as chair, but we can't technically do that tonight. We could go through the motions, elect a vice chair to preside over tonight's meeting, and then the next time that you convene, again, if the interest is in electing Rodney as chair, then we could just have the election for chair at that future meeting.
I like option 2. Rodney's chair.
Yeah, I would move
Yeah,
that,
I'm-
I would move that we do the vice chair.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you'll make a motion, we hold open chair for now, but we'll have an election for vice chair to conduct the meeting tonight. Okay. All in favor of, do we have a second to that
I'll
motion?
second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. All in favor of holding open chair for tonight, but commencing with the election for vice chair, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. With that, I will now entertain a motion for vice chair of the Historic Properties Commission. Okay. We got one nomination for Laurie Smith. Any other nominations?
I'll second that. Or do we second?
You can second it.
Okay, I'll second that.
Have you been vice chair? Were you serving, who was serving as
Your
vice
stuff.
chair this past year?
It's not
You,
No, it wasn't me, it was somebody else.
you sure?
I'm pretty sure.
I think you've been the vice chair since Rodney rotated off.
Okay, I thought it was,
I did it for a few meetings.
yes.
Was it? It
Eric.
was
It
Eric.
was Eric.
Yeah.
It was
there.
Eric.
I got
I'm already slipping. Don't worry about me before.
Which, we're trying to drive you crazy before you get the position.
All right, so we have a motion and a second for Laura Smith. Do we have any other nominations for vice chair?
Eric,
You want to nominate Eric?
yes, sir.
Okay.
Lori, do you not want to do it?
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather, I will do it, but I would rather pass it on if someone else is.
Willing?
Yes.
Okay,
If that's the case, I'll take the nomination.
all right.
I'll withdraw my second and give it to Eric based on what
Okay.
you just said.
You can second everybody.
I can second, well, then I'll second both of them.
Second, both of them.
That's a.
So are you withdrawing your nomination or are you?
Yes,
Okay. So Lori has withdrawn her nomination. We still have a nomination for Eric Gata on the table. Did we get a motion to second on that? I'm not sure that we need one.
I think he
Oh,
did.
that's it.
I second.
Any other nominees for vice chair? All right, hearing none, all in favor of Eric Gata as vice chair for 2025, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Congratulations, Mr. Gata.
Thank you.
The meeting is yours, but I do have one request for a amendment to the agenda. So I forgot to place the approval of your 2025 calendar on the agenda. So if you don't mind entertaining a motion to amend, we can have the calendar up on the board and then approve it for the rest of the year. But the meeting's yours.
We have a motion to accept. the calendar.
can't even see that.
I'll make a motion to accept.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
You want to set up here?
What's that?
You want to set
No,
up
I
here?
don't.
I've already tried to give him my seat.
There you go.
There we are.
All right, we have a second. All in favor of accepting the calendar as is?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Did you send that to us?
What's that?
Did you send that to us?
No, I didn't. That's why it's on the on the screen. I totally forgot about it.
But will you send that?
I certainly can, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay, yeah,
If it's not on the calendar, it doesn't happen.
And will it be
The,
posted to the website?
Yep.
Okay.
the January 13th dates is not
Says,
right.
I should say 26.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Thanks.
Make a motion, we amend this schedule to be, for the last date to be January 13th, 2026.
Second,
Second.
all right, all in favor of amending the as motion?
I,
All opposed? Motion passes.
And that will include, on the third column, the very last.
Yeah,
The mail, the
January
mail out there as well, yeah.
That will include 2 changes. I don't think we have to redo it, motion again, but it's 2.
You got it,
Make
Matt.
sure they all say 2026, yeah.
So in November, where you've moved it,
Yeah, that's a Veterans Day. The 11th is on Veterans Day on a Tuesday, so that'll be a Wednesday,
okay,
12th.
well, I knew in reason it couldn't go to Thursday.
Right.
So did you include the minutes in?
No, we had a draft of the June minutes from last year, and between now and then, they disappeared, or I'm not sure what happened.
Yes, I'm not sure we can approve the minutes without.
So we'll have to skip that. That'll have to go to the next meeting as well.
More time for the presentation.
That's right.
All right, was there any old business we need to talk about? I guess, there is, we've never really done anything with the, plaque we were gonna put together, and, we approved a, format, and I guess it's up to me probably to get costs ready for the next meeting and just move forward with it. All right, that's what we'll do. Put that on the agenda for next time.
I have another old business.
What's that? Yes.
We haven't been having meetings regularly, and, we haven't officially been told if the Guthrie Leo Dam has been approved by the Board of Commissioners, and we have not been officially told as a group that the, well, that over there, that cemetery over there
Mhm.
where the, Holt slaves buried. We haven't been told if officially that, that has been approved by the Alamance County Board of Commissioners.
Matt, do you have any idea if that's gone?
Yeah, so those were approved very shortly after, those are approved by the commissioners very shortly after the board approved.
Then my next question is, have these people been notified? We weren't, so George Dole has been notified. Has he been notified?
That was the Guthrie Mill
Uh-huh.
property.
Yeah.
I don't recall if he was notified. I know that we notified the village of Alamance for the slave cemetery in the city of, within the town limits of the village of Alamance.
I understand, but George Dole, he's a lawyer in Chapel Hill, and that needs to be done.
Sure, yeah. Can you send me his information and I can,
Well, yes, but it's in the document that we approved. But, so you still want me to send it again?
if it's in the document, I can find it and send it.
Thank you.
If I may ask, you mentioned a plaque. What was that in reference to?
black, right?
Or two plaques? Or
What's that?
you mentioned a plaque as part of
Yeah,
old business.
You want me to speak to that?
Yes, if you could,
Okay.
I don't remember the exact
I'm-
details off the top of my head.
Being new, I'm
Right,
catching up
so,
with this.
so you knew Pat Bailey.
Oh, yes.
Okay, well, she served on this, commission board for 40 years, or what seemed like a long time.
Mhm.
Chaired it for, I think, 9. But at any rate, when she passed away, there was some talk about having a plaque And this goes back, what, 8 years, 10 years?
Yeah,
I mean, a while. And I'm looking at Gail because she's the other one that was here then. So there was some back and forth about who's gonna make the plaque, how it was gonna be funded, what the verbiage was gonna be, and where it was gonna be placed.
Okay.
And working through that in that order, the last step was nixed to start with. So then we were looking at a plaque with some words on it that were maybe gonna be paid for some way or another, but we didn't have a place to put it. So years cycled around, got off the top of the shelf, wasn't thinking about it. Then at a point, Johnny Braxton, or Johnny to us, John Braxton to the world, who also served on this board from its inception, he passed away. So then the conversation was, well, let's just go ahead and get back. So the verbiage was approved. The resolution was offered, the commissioners signed off on it. So then we picked it back up to decide to take 2 plaques, have them made and just present them to the families to put them wherever they chose.
Okay.
So that's where we are, and there's been some conversation about what style plaque we wanted, what we wanted to look like. Was it indoor plaque, outdoor plaque, universal plaque, blah, 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 and all like this. And the last meeting was, we agreed on, we want it to look like this. This is what it's gonna say. So now we're in the pricing mode of that.
All right.
And that goes back to apparently June of last year. Does that sound about right? Okay.
Okay. I
So-
appreciate it.
in May, I think.
Well, Mayor,
April too.
Yeah, it could have been.
so did we bring him up to speed generically correctly?
Yes.
Is everybody,
I believe
we got a
so, yes.
consensus? Okay,
Yes.
all right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
So we approved the style and the wording and now it's a matter of getting it done, so. And I guess that's on me for the next meeting.
Okay.
All right. Any other old business? All right, to move on to new business, the American 250 grant application. Somebody want to tell us about this?
Yes, sir. I'll be glad to introduce you, Ms. Troxler. Joining us tonight is Elon University Professor Carol Troxler. Ms. Troxler is spearheading an American 250 grant application aimed at recognizing the historic ballpark community within the town of Elon. After her presentation, the only real business that you'll need to conduct tonight is to simply recommend or not recommend moving forward with the grant application. Upon your recommendation, this issue will then go before the county commissioners for approval, and the county would act as the fiscal agent for the grant. It's also worth mentioning here too, that a component of her grant application is for the installation of a historic marker, and that would need to come back before the board in the months to come and go through the usual application process, which involves being presented to the North Carolina Department of Natural and Cultural Resources in accordance with General Statute 160D-946. So with that, I will turn it over to Professor Troxler.
Thank you very much. Just call me Carol, and I was worried about you people having a quorum tonight. How silly of me. This must be 100% attendance, and I'm very, very glad. And frankly, I was a little nervous about it because the bee got in my bonnet to suggest, and with the cooperation of Matt and with the approval and encouragement of Rodney, and I thank you both profoundly for that. I stopped doing what I was doing, and for the past, well, not the past month, but from just before Thanksgiving on, I've worked on this full time voluntarily because I thought it needed to be done. So let's click on to the next one. There are 2 types of grants for the America 250 program. Is a national program to commemorate the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. And the grant program has been set up to operate during 2 years, during this year and during next year. So it's a 2-year period, and the application that I have prepared for you without the knowledge of most of you. It is to be used in 2026. The work is to be done in 2025. And I have worked with the people in Raleigh who determine these things. And I'm sure that I've crossed all the Ts and dotted the Is, but I certainly want this opportunity and appreciate this opportunity to tell you just exactly what it is. I could not give this to you at your last meeting because the day that I called Rodney with my bright idea to do it was the day after your last meeting. And in November, I guess it was. And so I've just sort of been out on a limb, working with Matt, working with Rodney, working with the people in Raleigh, and getting the whole thing together. And you've probably heard of the grants because there are 2 types of grants. There is a county-wide grant, which is coming up for any nonprofit group in the county that wants to join together in one package. The Visitors Bureau for Alamance County, Grace Vandevisser, is handling that, and she's in the final stages of getting that together. The one that this application is for the community grant. There are differences, and the main difference is financial. The ceiling for the all-county grant, all of them together, is $10,000. And the community grant has a much higher ceiling than that, and this proposal is not asking for nearly this the ceiling, but this is too big to go under the countywide grant is what I'm saying. And also, I understand informally that we would really have a better chance of getting a grant as a community grant because they're wanting more community grants for some reason. Anyway. And the way that the national program is set up is that there are 3 themes, and the grant application has to address at least one of the 3 themes. And the first one, Visions of Freedom, largely has to do with the Revolutionary era. And the other 2 are A Gathering of Voices and A Common Ground. And it's these other 2 that we envision this for. So if you could check me that. And what A Gathering of Voices means, and I got this from the America 250 site, the historic and modern day voices and stories of North Carolinians serve to inspire others to take innovative steps toward a more perfect union. That's really the theme. And to ensure that all voices are heard. Our revolutionary ancestors have much to tell us about their lives and experiences. Voices from our recent past can also inspire us to recognize that out of many, one voice can be heard and can make change and can affect us all. So what we are working towards certainly suits that. And then the other theme, Common Ground, is that physical spaces hold shared stories of struggle, creation, and connection, and our spaces of reverence, such as battlefields, historic places, the natural world, can echo happiness, violence, painful memories, evidence of struggles, rebirth, and growth. All hold the narratives of collective and individual struggles, creativity, and relationship to one another. So those are the themes that are required to be addressed. So that's important to know. Yeah. And this is a summary of the project description for the one that I'm working on. It would present the history of an African-American community known in the 20th and 21st century as Ballpark Community. It's located in the town of Elon, which of course is in Alamance County. The community long has been perceived as having grown up around Elon College as a convenient location from which employees of the college and its faculty could walk. I moved here in 1969, 1970. That certainly was the impression that I got, though I started asking around as early as 1970, about what the old history was that maybe had not been unearthed. And I got the idea that there was something there, and I've sort of worked with it in bits and pieces ever since 1970. Elon College, as you may know, was founded in 1889, and this community is 20 years older than Elon College. It is older than Mill Point, which was the railway stop that was placed there to handle the shipping that the local cotton mills needed. And I have found historical documentation for, and I've boiled it down to 5 things, which I would read to you individually. That first of all, the community began as a freedmen's settlement right after the Civil War. They were all or mostly local people who had been enslaved in northern Alamance, in Caswell, and in eastern Guilford counties. At least 7 of the men had served in the Union forces as members of the United States colored troops. Actually, there's a possibility that at least 12 had, but in comparing the names that I have and what I found in later censuses about their age and their birthplaces and so forth, I ruled out 5 of the names, but there's 7 left that, I feel as sure as anyone can that yes, these are the individuals who were enrolled in the United States colored troops. Their general location and the names of the taxable men were recorded in an 1869 Alamance County tax list. So that's really the earliest document that I have for this community. I don't know that they were all living, like neighbored right up to one another, but the way they're listed in the tax list suggests very strongly that they live close to one another. Because in the other townships, and this is Boone's Township that we're talking about here, in the other townships, black men and white men were just sort of interspersed, suggesting that the tax officer was going down the road as census takers did and listing people in the order that they visited them. But in the Boone Station Township, all of the black men are listed together. And I have locations for some of them as being where I think the group was. And so that's a strong indication that they were that they were living not necessarily neighbor to neighbor, but in the same general place along the railroad track. And the railroad, of course, was built earlier in 1850. The tax list is a property valuation and a head tax. So every head of household is listed for the property that the taxable property that they own. And this is usually land, of course, credit debits that are owed to them, movable property, furniture, livestock, things of that sort. And it's also a head tax because there was a head tax on, all men between certain ages, of a taxable age. So for each man, there is listed the valuation of his personal property. So they're all pretty much together. There are 1 or 2 outstanding ones, but And then I took that 1869 tax list and put it with the census list of the next year, the 1870 census list, and got the names of their wives and their children, because the tax list is only the head of household, the men. And so, you know, I've got a whole list of people in the community there. And fifth, and this is really important for demonstrating a community identity and a continuation of a community identity. And that is that the Freedmen settlement organized a church before 1876. We don't know how much earlier than 1876, but there's definite records from the outside that this church was going by 1876. And with the denominational change that came in the 1920s, the congregation has continued to symbolize the community's self-awareness. So, you know, I'm kind of perceiving of that congregation as the symbol of an ongoing identity as a community. Thank you. And where did I get this information? What are my historical sources? Well, you don't have to read all of that, but I just thought I would put that up for you so you could see that I didn't make it up. I couldn't make up something this interesting if I tried. So let's have the next.
Excuse me, Dr. Troxler, what church is that you were referring to?
I'll show
You'll
you.
get to, okay.
I'll show you a picture and everything, but thank you.
I appreciate it.
I'm so glad you have questions. I expect a lot of questions, even with this sort of canned presentation. So let's go on to the next one. Now, what this proposed grant would do, the deliverable, so to speak, it would enable this group, you all, to place a local historical marker in the ballpark community in Elon at no expense to the county. And none of this is of any expense to the county. There is a requirement of a 15% matching grant. And I have more than 15% with written commitments of people who are going to do things or provide or you know, in other words, we're perfectly good with that. And there's absolutely no money from the county involved in this. Secondly, it would enable the Elon, talking too fast. It would enable the Alamance County African American Cultural Arts and History Center to research the post-1920s history of Ballpark and man an exhibit treating the community history from the end of the Civil War to the present. Now, the work that I have done, you know, before and during, well, before getting this grant proposal together, the work that I have done goes up into the 1920s. And there's nobody left who remembers the Freedmen settlement and, you know, the very early church. Although there was just a whiff of memory of the very first church around when I moved there and started asking questions, but until recently, I never really got the full story on that. Third, it would enable a free public program featuring the community's early history, and that would be hosted by the Alamance County Historical Association, who've already agreed to do this. And it would provide copies of an article telling the story of the community's history from the end of the Civil War into the 1920s and providing documentation. Obviously, I'm the person who's still in the process of writing that article because I was working on a book about Caswell and Alamance counties in the late 19th, early 20th centuries. And I had reason to dig back into my information about the Ballpark community. And I thought, well, you know, you really ought to get what you think you know together and, you know, put all these puzzle pieces together and sort that out, you know, before you refer to it in book. So I did that this summer. And then in the process of completing that, I realized that, there's a lot more here than anybody has ever suspected. So that's kind of, so the article has not been published. It's still in my computer, but it will be published. Hopefully in the North Carolina Historical Review. That's usually where my work of this sort of thing does. So those are the things that the grant would provide. It would provide the marker, the research for the African American Cultural Arts and History Center to do the research for an exhibit and to build an exhibit in their place, provide a free public program, and then provide copies of an article. Don't know how many, and it would be given only to schools or other organizations who wanted it. It would not be, you know, just distributed. Okay, thank you. Now, the partner in this grant, the major partner is the African American Cultural Arts and History Center. And if you've not been there yet, it's on Corporation Drive. And they're going to have, I understand, a capital campaign to get a bigger, better space. But boy, they've got some really good stuff in that space. And if you haven't been there, I recommended it very highly. This came from their website, and so I'm just going to read it to you in case you're not familiar with what they do. The AACAHC actively collects and preserves Alamance County's African American history in many varied forms. Through community partnerships, the center has visually documented the oral history of the community. It has and is continuing to recognize many individuals who have made a lasting impact on the African American community. Unearthing their stories are essential to the mission. As a museum and a cultural site, the center is determined to bring to the community all the benefits associated with heritage tourism and a public institution devoted to education and preservation. So what they have now, they have had at least two on loan exhibits from Africa, which are just mind-boggling. And they still have one of them there now. It came from Elon University, which was somebody collected this gorgeous mask and gave their collection to the university. And it's been on display in the university library all these years. And the university loaned it for exhibit to the center, which, you know, makes it available to a lot more people. But what they have been able to do so far has been largely based on interviews, oral tradition, and that's wonderful. But they're wanting to branch out and get some older things worked into it as well. And the manager of it approached me some time ago saying that he wanted to do an exhibit for each one of the historically Black settlements, communities in Alamance County. And so if this goes through, he will start with the ballpark community because he's already got from the work that I've done up through the 1920s. And then if we get the grant, he will do the research and build an exhibit based on, you know, go around to people's homes and interview them, get copies of their family photographs and or artifacts, or, you know, that the sort of thing that you do with people who have a living memory. Okay. And this is the manager, James Shields. He had a 20-year career at Guilford College. I've met him a number of times. I'm very impressed with him, quite frankly. He's a good historian and he is an excellent communicator. This is showing him with some Guilford students, I think. And he keeps his hair because every now and then he turns himself into Frederick Douglass. and he looks an awful lot like Frederick Douglass. He is an actor, among other things, and you may have seen him in Pathway to Freedom. He is a part of the new startup of the Snow Camp Theater, and he's been very, very active with that. Okay. Now, the major items of funding that we're asking for, the major items are the historical marker and the expenses for researching and building the exhibit. And that's not counting the in-kind cost. And so the summary of the grant, what we would be requesting from the America 250 is $7,607. What our cost share that's already been committed in writing is almost $4,000. So the total package of the grant would be about $1,100 and $560. That's the kind of money that we're looking at. So you can see it's too big to have ever gone into the countywide grant. It would eat it up and then some. So that's what we're looking at. Now I can break that budget down, and you may not want to look at all these details, but first of all, I've listed the grant, and I got a quote from Siwa Studios, which is the marker maker that you all have used in the past. And it's one of the three that's on your website to get your 3 quotes from. And I just went ahead and got one from them only because I was just making out a grant proposal and I needed a ballpark figure. And I did give them specifications for it, which if this goes through, that's already been done. The spec sheet is ready. And then $600 to me as a volunteer for securing and coordinating partners and filing the application. I worked a lot more than 30 hours, but I just listed that, and the application proposes $25 an hour for volunteers. I put myself in as 20. That's $600, and $200 is budgeted to come from the grant, and I'm throwing in the other, which is worth $400. That's a cost share of it there. And then $1,200 is budgeted for James Shields for researching and building the exhibit. $600 is cost share, and $600 is grant. Okay, so he's going half, or I recommended he go half and half on that. And then $500 for his automobile mileage, because he's going to make a lot of trips to Ballpark and to Gibsonville. Because the families in a part of Gibsonville also are a part of the heritage of the Ballpark community for the research and the trips to get the supplies. And then this is the biggest item. The $2,400 grant is budgeted to the Center for Exhibit Supplies and Materials and Equipment. And of course, I've got that, itemized elsewhere, but I didn't think you needed to see how much the posters were going to cost and, all of that kind of thing. And then this is our biggest cost share generosity is 2 things from Elon University, $325 for the outdoor speakers and microphone and an outdoor setup. This is for the dedication of the theoretical marker because, it's outdoors. It'd probably be it's outdoors, so it's going to need a portable speaker and the kind of things that the university has, and they're willing to lend those, set it up, and, to do that for us, which is just marvelous, I think. And then also, the university is willing to rent the chairs and the tents for the marker dedication ceremony. It probably will be in the summer. It probably will be hot. And so, they're set up to provide water and cover and those kinds of things. And I think probably the people at Elon First Baptist Church, which is the church that it is now, I feel sure that they will provide some finger food refreshments and, with the university's water service and their, pickup food, we will have a good time, if this goes through. Okay, and then a grant to Rod Clark is the chair of the Elon University History and Geography Department, and the grant requires that we have an outside historian to evaluate the historical work that is done. So Rod would evaluate, and he doesn't know it yet, but the university has agreed that somebody from the history department would do that, and I put him in as a chair because he'll do it, or he'll designate somebody else to do it, to check on my work, and to check on James Shields' work for the exhibit. So, it's not going to be just something somebody made up. And then a speaker's fee to the Alamance County Historical Association for a public program. And then a grant for copies, or $367, which would come from the grant for copies of the research article. And I base that on a local supplier. And then similarly, a grant for publicity brochure that would be advertising all 3 of the events that are coming out of this grant. So that's where the money's going. The suggested marker would be placed at a cemetery of the Elon First Baptist Church, which is in the ballpark community, of course. And this is the way it would read. The title, and of course, this is open to editing, let me say, but you got to give them something when you're making an application. But the title would be 1860s Origin of the Ballpark Community. And then the rest of the text is about 30 African-American families settled in the woods near here following emancipation. Several of the men had served in the United States colored troops during the Civil War. Their available labor influenced the North Carolina Railroad to locate Mill Point here in the 1880s to serve shipping needs of area textile mills. The residents organized a church here in the 1870s. Lutheran at first, the congregation became Baptist in the 20th century. The 2 church buildings were near this burial ground, originally with unmarked graves. The cemetery symbolizes the African-American heritage of the ballpark community, Elon University, the town of Elon, and Alamance County. So, at this point, and it's that number of letters and so forth that I sent in to CUOP. We can do the next one. This is the cemetery. It is still used by the Elon First Baptist Church. In fact, a dear friend and neighbor of mine who died just within the last year, is buried there. No, we got to go back. Go back one. Go back one. There we are. And you can see the some of the graves, and the marker would be placed near the road, 2-sided, of course, so it could be read from the cemetery side, it could be read from the roadside, it could be read from a car. That's, absolutely the history on a stick sort of thing. So that would be the permanent thing there. And this point is right where West Trollinger Avenue and Ballpark Avenue, it ceases to be one and becomes another. You can't see the Elon First Baptist Church now, but the original Lutheran church was here. And the Baptist church, when the Lutheran church went Baptist and built a new Baptist church, it was there as well. And then I've forgotten when, but not that very long ago, Elon First Baptist Church moved to a different location. It's not far away. It's on Lynn Street, and it's on the other side of the graves that you can see. And of course, in the foreground, you've got the area where you've got unmarked graves. And so this is the common ground that has run through the community from the 1860s to the present. And that's the reason for selecting that particular site. And I will say that the folks at the Elon First Baptist Church are very thrilled about this. They did not know the extent of this history. And that's simply because, you know, when an old person dies, a library burns down. And that's what has happened here. It's not only newcomers and outsiders like me who, you know, accepted what I was told that, oh yeah, these are people that moved here to work for the college or work for the faculty of the college. You know, that made sense. That made good sense. And a lot of them did work in later years for the college and its faculty. But the people in Ballpark don't really know this. And so you would be giving them back a piece of their history that, you know, somewhere back there may be some shadow of a memory which this could link up with, but I'm getting into too much now. This is a close-up of the ground. You see the red X up in the top of the screen. That's where I'm proposing that the marker would be. And again, both of those churches were very close by. Each of them had a building right next to each other, and for several years they coexisted. And then some of the Lutheran folks moved to Greensboro, and the ones that were left became Baptist. And frankly, you know, looking at this historically, I see their going Baptist as an act of self-empowerment. And many denominations changed, and many congregations changed denominations over the years. We know that. And the Lutheran organization that helped them out for such a long time, it wasn't until 1912 that they had a pastor who was African American. And that's just because that the local people did not have the training. And what the Lutheran group did to help provide the training was to start a seminary for African American Lutherans in Greensboro. And the first pastor that was actually African American of this Lutheran church came in 1912, right after he graduated from that cemetery. And let me tell you what, his last name was Lynn, Lynn. And, you know, in talking to the folks in the church, I said, do you know where the name Lynn came from? Well, no, I've always wondered where the name Lynn came from. But obviously, Lynn Street is named for Pastor Lynn. And it's somewhat nicely ironic that the new building that they've been using for the past several decades of the Baptist Church is on Lynn Street. It just happens to be on Lynn Street. So let's, excuse me. Now that here is where the Elon First Baptist Church is. And so it's really pretty close there. Okay, now we'll get a broader view so that you'll see starting with Highway 70 down at the bottom, and you see Williamson Avenue going up to Elon, and then the Ballpark community is labeled in red. It's not entirely inhabited by African American people now, but it is the heart of the Black community. It is the Ballpark community. So, you know. Okay, let's see another one. And in case you're interested in the names of those Union veterans, there they are, if you know anybody with those last names. And that came from the records of the United States Colored Troops, which are in various forms and bodies. And let's see just one more, and this will be the last one. These are the families that I have reconstructed from the 1869 tax list and the census of the following year. So that's the men and the women, and that's who they are. So now I know you have questions and I probably gabbed on longer. Please, sir.
It may not be known, maybe that's what some of the research will find, but where did ballpark?
Oh, yeah, that's because, in the early twenties, Elon College, as it was then, built a stadium.
Okay.
A baseball field there. And it didn't have a name that I've ever heard until the name ballpark. And then that's when it got to be known as the ballpark community. And one of the men who lived in Ballpark and who was in fact, and I just learned this yesterday, who was one of the people who started the Baptist church in the 1920s. His name was Pinckney Comer, and he worked for the college, and he worked, among other places, at the ball field, and he always went to the ball games. And so after he died, the college named it Comer Field in his honor. It's no longer a ballpark now because, they got all this newfangled stuff, but that's a connection that the college has recognized, back when it was a college, it's recognized the service of a number of individuals from Ballpark community who have worked for the college. But, it was segregation times, and there was a certain amount of condescension and paternalism, involved in that. And, it was a different age, and we're in a different time now. And so I think we could, call a spade and get on with it. But anyway, those are the names, and they're from the census records and from the 69 tax record. Now, I know you have more questions. Please.
When was the older, Elon First Baptist Church demolished, and was it the church congregation themselves that made that decision, since I'm assuming they still own the cemetery property?
Yeah, basically it is referred to today by members of I talked with the gentleman who's from one of these original families, and who's a very educated man, and who's very history minded. And he got this from his grandmother, that they thought that the Lutheran church had split, and that some of them formed a Baptist church. Well, it's just a matter of how you want to look at it, but it's the same people.
Mm-hmm.
And we do know that the Lutheran church and the first Baptist church, which originally was a wooden structure, it later was bricked over and was this very, very nice brick building. But originally the Lutheran church and the Baptist church were right next to each other, shared the graveyard. And there's been the graveyard's moved a little bit, people have buried people in different places. But that's essentially what happened. And it took several years for the Baptists to really get their land secured. I've looked at, I don't know how many deeds for this, to see, well, what are they doing? They're buying a half acre and then somebody's giving them an acre or whatever, It took them several years to do that. So they were working on it from at least 1908, which you've got a going Lutheran church here for the first time, an African-American pastor. There were, what was your question again? How old is the original Baptist church?
Maybe why it was demolished.
Oh, yeah, why was it demolished?
Right.
The brick church, the man who gave the land for the first of the Baptist church originally,
Mm-hmm.
he also, it was wood, but he also bricked it up later. He was the first pastor of the Baptist church. His name was McMullen. And he bricked it up. And I've got a photograph of it that was made in 1972, because somebody from the outside took it to the state archives, the idea that this old church ought to be on the historic registry, you know. And so they came out and they did the inventory, and I got the records of the inventory and the photographs of it and so forth. But it never went anywhere. I think, you know, it just wasn't followed through or whatever, you know. And it was a bear for the church to keep up.
Yeah.
You know, once it was getting crumbly.
Yeah.
By the 1960s, and I think the church that they're using now came along about 1970 or 1972. And to keep up that old building was a very great expense, but it was beautiful, Victorian style,
Mhm.
you know, and there'll be pictures of it in the article for sure. But the Baptist church is definitely up and running by 1923. That's the date on the last of the deeds. And it was active before then, and it was coexisting with the Lutheran church. And as I said, some of the Lutheran families moved to Greensboro. And, you know, that kind of made a difference. Yeah, what else? Yes.
Is it possible that the state office didn't approve it for designation because it had been bricked, veneered?
No, that was not a problem.
Okay,
It was put on the study list.
right.
It was put on the study list but nobody ever followed through it.
Okay.
I've got a similar situation like that. There's an old school that's one of the original taxpayer funded schools in Alamance County, Cable School.
And to tell you the truth, I'm interrupting,
Yeah, please.
but I had my hearing aid in backwards
Oh.
the night that we had our first conversation. Cause I thought that's what we were talking
Oh,
about. But
really?
yeah,
Oh.
and I've been telling folks, I said, y'all ain't believe this. We got the last, sold this thing up right good. And then I started reading through this. I'm like, well, yeah, we did talk about that, but
That's not Cable School. No.
and I was processing in my mind, we're close.
Yeah.
Right here,
Yeah,
right there. I
yeah,
mean,
it's
but
very
it ain't the
close.
same.
It's very close.
So,
But that school is 1850s. And
Right.
there are two of those original taxpayer funded schools still existing in Alamance County. The other one has been moved and it's been altered to use for something else. This one in Elon is in its original place. It was restored. I talked to university into hiring a real restoration person to restore it several years ago. And I got it on the study list. I mean, I gave them my research, got it on the study list, but there's just too much going on my computer for me to do all this. And I thought, well, one of these days I'm going to take Cable School to the Historic Properties Commission and maybe they'll put up a local marker for Cable School. And really and truly, I'm getting off the subject now, but Cable School is, as far as anybody in state archives knows, and I've asked them all, as far as they know, it is the only original tax-funded school in North Carolina that is in its original location.
right.
There's one in Salisbury that was out in the country and they moved it to a park in Salisbury.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that right there says we need to move on this.
Well, it wouldn't
Or,
hurt.
or you do, or we do, or somebody do.
Well, I've done my bit, but
Yeah.
I will want to follow through. You'll probably see me again asking
Okay.
for a marker, but there's no grant money for that, and there's grant money for this, so that's the end of my presentation. For
I have a
any
question.
questions, please.
On your deliverables and expected outcomes, and number 5, you've got purchase and installation of local historical marker by ACHPC, but you have all the money for everything.
Oh, yeah.
But the way that reads is as if,
Oh, no, the money.
right, but the way that reads is if we are purchasing and installing.
Oh, yeah, you are, but you're doing it with the government's money.
That's fine. That's fine, I'm just making sure.
Well, so,
Money's what I do, so, yeah.
yeah, so as I mentioned in the kind of preamble to the presentation, so the county is technically going to be the applicant.
Mhm.
You basically put the application together and spearheaded the whole thing and spoken with the different parties and organized it all. But based on the way that the grant is structured, the county will have to be the applicant. The reason this is come before the HPC is part of the powers and duties of these types of proceedings and what the HPC does is, quote, this is General Statute 160D-942, which outlines powers and duties of the Historic Preservation Commission. Part of it is to cooperate with state, federal, and local governments in pursuance of these endeavors. The governing board or the commission, when authorized by the governing board, may contract with the state or United States of America or any agency, provided that the terms are not are consistent with state or federal law. So basically, in order to receive the grant, HPC initial approval, county commissioner further approval, and then the county is the fiscal agent. So the money that would come in for the historic marker would come to the county and then be paid to a vendor, basically to construct the thing.
And that's why.
But
So the county's just acting kind of like a pass-through organization.
basically, yeah,
Okay,
the fiscal agent for the grant.
okay.
But as I also mentioned, and this will be another process, when it comes time to actually approve the location of the historic marker, that will be a secondary process.
Sure.
And Ian might know more about this than I do, but basically an application is put together, sent to the North Carolina Department of Natural and Cultural Resources. They take a look at it, they make an evaluation and a recommendation back to HPC, and then HPC ultimately says, yes, there should be a historic marker here. But that's gonna be a secondary step beyond what you're looking at tonight.
So I understand tonight we're to agree to forward it to the commissioners.
Basically, you're just recommending that the commissioners move forward. If you wish to, you can recommend against it, but if you wish to recommend for it, then the next stop is the commissioners.
Doctor, I'm sorry, I was Dr. Troxler. I just want to say, I really appreciate everything you did there. That was a phenomenal presentation on.
Well, I may be a little bit crazy, you know?
That's
but I
okay.
don't mind. I don't mind.
But
Was the question on maybe or a little bit?
So is the church a sponsor of this officially,
No.
or are you the only sponsor?
No,
or-
I'm not a sponsor. I'm a volunteer who's got it all together for you to pass on
think
to the,
Sponsor
So
was
the
gonna be
government is
the AA.
basically the sponsor, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
the church is, I think they're listed in the proposal as, I think the church and the university, and the Alamance County, Historical Association are listed as like second line partners. But the real
Right.
partners are you all, the county.
And the church is
And-
fine with the marker, I mean.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
they put a letter in the packet saying they
Yeah.
agree to it.
Oh, good, yeah.
Carol, I thought this is a commission or association.
Well, there's two different things. There's-
Yeah,
there's
I'm
this one.
I'm talking about the organization, Alamance County Historical Association, that's going to provide a public program.
Different. This is not.
No, it's not a,
Not us.
No,
No,
That's-
this is
that's
not,
another group.
this is the commission, Historic Properties Commission.
Oh, when you, okay.
That's all right, it's a lot of words. It's a lot of
You,
words.
you'd think this was a government thing with all that alphabet soup mess, wouldn't you?
well, I'm Presbyterian, so I'm used to committees, working with committees, so. you're good there.
I appreciate you all, entertaining me, and entertaining you. And I'll be happy to step out of the room when
You don't need, you're welcome to, but you don't need to.
do we have a motion on this?
I move that we send it to the commissioners to be approved.
Second,
Second, any discussion? All in favor?
I,
aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Well, thank you, folks. I hope this works out, and it's my understanding that Matt's gonna take it to the commissioners and, or is it already?
It's already in the chute. It'll be on their agenda a week from tonight. And as of right now, it's on the consent agenda. So they may not even debate it. They typically just in one
Yeah.
fell swoop approve everything that's on the consent.
Well,
agenda.
you let me know if you think I may need to just be sitting there in the woodwork to
Oh,
answer
yeah, I'll let you
questions,
know.
but I'm not asking for the job.
I will certainly let you know.
Put your cable school proposal together for next meeting.
It won't be next meeting, I guarantee you.
All right,
I
you
got-
got 2 meetings. then.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right, any announcements?
Just to close the loop on what you asked about earlier. So we did send a letter to the property owner in late July notifying them that they had, received the historical designation. I just found it in the records during the meeting.
Is there any further action there necessary? All right, motion to adjourn. Second,
Second.
all in favor of adjournment? Aye.
You're right. On one.
Thank you all. Glad to know you.
Thank you, Dr. Frost.
Sure.
Thank you.
Hello, Mr. Grayson. I'm glad to know you. Hey,
Good
Rodney.
to make this official.
I know.
Did you sing in the choir at the community church